Hello and welcome. This is Barrett from the C4 Cyber Club here at Cypress College. In this video, we're going to cover the Ethical Hacking Lab series, Vulnerability Scanning with OpenVAS. So what is OpenVAS? It is essentially a software framework of several services and tools offering vulnerability scanning and vulnerability management. Now, this is open source, free software licensed under the GNU General Public License. And it also includes various plugins that are written in the Nessus Attack Scripting Language, or NASL. So we'll go ahead and dive into this and see how we can scan a machine and take a look at various vulnerabilities, check out CVEs or common vulnerabilities and exposures. So the first thing we'll do, once we're logged into our Kali machine, what we need to do is start the OpenVAS services. So you go to Applications, Vulnerability Analysis, and you'll see OpenVAS Start. You'll see that this launches terminal, and it's starting those OpenVAS services. And then finally, we will need to start our Apache web server, because essentially what we'll be logging into a web interface to work with OpenVAS. We'll run service Apache 2 restart. And then from there, we can open up our web browser, or Iceweasel in this case. So from here, because we launched the OpenVAS services, we launched the Apache web server, we can interface with our own loopback interface, the 127.0.0.1 on port 9392. And we're going to access this Greenbone Security Assistant. So that is essentially the web portal or web interface for OpenVAS. Which, by the way, I don't believe I mentioned in the beginning, OpenVAS stands for the Open Vulnerability Assessment Scanner. So we will access this at, make sure you type in HTTPS for secure, then 127.0.0.1 colon port 9392. Okay, and then we'll need to add an exception for this connection. So we will go ahead and confirm security exception here. And now we're greeted with the login. So the login is admin, or the username is admin, I should say, and the password is simply password. All right, so this is the front dashboard here. Okay, so we'll go to SecInfo Management, and then the SecInfo dashboard here. And what we're looking at here is the various NVT or network vulnerability tests sorted by severity that we can be scanning for using OpenVAS. Also listed is the CVEs by severity. I mentioned earlier, CVE stands for Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures. So this is essentially lists of vulnerabilities, known vulnerabilities. And for example, probably one of the best websites to reference known CVEs is the MITRE website, cve.mitre.org. So I highly recommend you check that out, give that a bookmark. And also you have websites like ExploitDB that are regularly updated every day with newly discovered vulnerabilities. So essentially what we're doing in a vulnerability scanner like OpenVAS is we're referencing databases of CVEs to try and locate vulnerabilities within our scans. And then within here, you can see that you can change these graphs in what they represent. All right, and we could also come to extras, come down to the CVSS calculator. We could take a look at how these scores are determined. So let's say if you've determined that the confidentiality is completely compromised in a vulnerability, maybe the integrity is partial. You'll notice down here it's updating the base score whenever you add these particular metrics or vectors. And this is how you'll see in the reports. They're listed here. And so all of these base vectors represent access vector, access complexity, authentication, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And of course, the CIA triad is the most important aspect of securing networks and data. So, let's say this had partial availability issues as well, or maybe complete. You notice that the base score keeps increasing. So this would be a, pretty high medium vulnerability. All right, now we could take a look at doing a quick scan. And this scan will take a while. Essentially, we'll enter in this IP, 192.168.68.12. And so this is the OWASP BWA machine that we are scanning. And you'll just hit Start Scan. Okay, so you notice that this task has created an immediate scan of that IP. Now here you'll notice that this website is essentially set to refresh every 30 seconds. So if I refresh it now, you'll notice we're at 1%. So this will continue to scan. And like I said, as it also says on the lab, wait about 15 to 20 minutes. So what I would do, I will meet you back here once the scan is complete. All right, so that scan is finally complete. It definitely took a good solid 15 to 20 minutes. So from here, what we could do, we can click on this number 1 here in the total reports. And you'll see it gives us, okay, so we definitely have a very high severity level here. And under scan results, you can see a snapshot. We have 20 high vulnerabilities, 58 medium, 5 lows, and then we also have 118 different logs. And these could be just from the various plugin scans that OpenVAS runs, which sometimes these logs can be useful. But essentially, when you're looking at this and you have 20 high severity levels, this is going to be your top priority right here. So we'll go ahead and click on the date to give a more detailed report. We can analyze these vulnerabilities. Okay, so we see here OS end of life detection. Yeah, that's a huge vulnerability. We have multiple WordPress vulnerabilities here. We have vulnerabilities in the Apache web server, TikiWiki, all kinds of things here. And if you click on the vulnerability in general, in question, the end of life detection, you'll see it gives a summary. And in a lot of cases, it gives you solutions, but with end of life detection, obviously that just means you need to completely upgrade your operating system. Let's take a look at one of the WordPress vulnerabilities. Okay, so we have a summary. The host is running WordPress and is prone to multiple vulnerabilities. The impact So attackers can exploit this issue by sending malicious requests to several scripts in the WP admin directory to gain access to administrative functions. And you have here a quick solution. So, okay, all you have to do is update to version 2.8.3. Great. So now, and if you scroll down, you see you eventually reach the medium severity levels. You get to the lows eventually. Now remember, this machine that it's scanning is the purposefully vulnerable OWASP BWA. So hopefully, if you scanned an enterprise network, you wouldn't see so many high severities, but those would obviously be your first line of focus here. Also remember that not all vulnerabilities can be eliminated. There's always going to be maybe some, especially maybe in the medium or low. The high severities you definitely want to take care of. And it's only because things are constantly changing. There's constantly new vulnerabilities, and you're always needing to update and patch, which is why it's so important, though, to patch. Because if a new vulnerability is found, you could bet it will be exploited by malicious attackers. And if you don't patch your software. And then here, finally, you see all the logs that I was talking about. Okay, great. So now we could take a look at scan configurations. We go to configuration here, scan configs. These are all the different choices you could select when you do a scan. So let's take a look at the full and very deep ultimate. Essentially what this is doing, it's including various types of the NVTs, the network vulnerability tests. So if you wanted to, you could potentially create a customized scan configuration. And, if you didn't want to scan for, very specific things like FreeBSD local security checks, you could remove those. You see that that's a significant amount of scans. Or if you don't need to scan for Fedora local security checks, you could remove that, and that would potentially speed up the scan. Because remember, when we did the previous scan, I forget exactly which one it was. It might have been the full and fast, but you see here, it includes 43,000 some NVTs. So that's why the scan takes quite a long time. Okay, now we could also create a new target, which can be used when you're creating a new scan task. So go to configuration and then targets. We'll click this blue star here. And we'll create a target for the OWASP machine, which is the same machine that we were just scanning. So we'll enter the IP address. Under live test, we'll just select consider alive. We're not doing any kind of pinging here to check that if it's up. Okay, so you can see here that target was created. If we came back to configuration and targets, you'll see it listed here, the OWASP. Now, if we come to scan management, you could see this is our previous scan. Now, if you click the blue star here for new task, we can name this OWASP scan. And now that we've created that target, we can go ahead and select it right here. Now, you can also even create schedules. So if you had come to configuration, schedules, you can create a schedule, maybe say a daily vulnerability scan. And then you would select that newly created schedule here to add it to this new task. And now also, this is where you select your scan config. So if we wanted to select that full and very deep ultimate scan, we could select that there and then create task. Okay, and now we would basically just hit the start button. And as you can see, that scan has been requested here. So now we could just go back to the main page, and we'll see that that scan has also begun. And we see the original scan that we did before this up top here. So I'm going to end the video here. You can go ahead and let the scan complete on your own and take a look at the analysis from there. Definitely encourage you to just poke around, especially in terms of analyzing the reports. Remember, you can come here to the date and just take a look through a lot of these vulnerabilities, get a feel for what port these specific vulnerabilities and services are running on. Determine why is it such a high severity level, So great. Once again, this was the Ethical Hacking Lab series on vulnerability scanning with OpenVAS. Thanks a lot for watching.